Tonight is it will be more of a fun and interesting kind of a topic to talk about, um, especially for people who are familiar with Tibetan Buddhism. They've encountered these very beautiful iconographies. They're called tankas. These paintings of mandalas and deities appearing in different forms and different aspects, usually painted on cloth uh, with a weight, some sort of weight at the bottom to keep it uh, to keep it stretched so it doesn't roll on itself. Yeah. So I have to say, even though everyone who practices Tibetan Buddhism, especially after receiving teachings through the traditional Tibetan way of learning Tibetan Buddhism, everyone at some point in their spiritual career gets introduced into these various deities, various forms. Um, so there isn't much explanation given to them unless you are specifically given a practice in relationship to one of them. Then you're given some sort of explanation about that particular deity, that particular form. And sometimes others forms, other deities are also talked about, but nothing really much in depth. It's almost as if you already know this, and we're just going to talk about this part of it, about what you already know, because almost every Tibetan, within the Tibetan culture itself, everyone has some sort of introduction, some sort of understanding, some sort of it's part of their life already about these various deities, and you can understand that the regular Tibetan who's not much of a deep practitioner or not really involved too much into Tibetan Buddhism, they may not they may not be able to explain it the same way as somebody who's studied it. Okay? So don't just ask any Tibetan about the meaning of certain things, certain Buddhist iconographies, because their experience with it will be completely personal. It may not necessarily be something that is necessarily what you might call within the doctrine, so to speak. All right. And my connection, my involvement with it is not as deep. So I will not be able to, I'm not the person to come to say, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? Why is he holding this? Why is he holding that? Who is she? Who's that? Where did that come from? I do not, unfortunately, our training, my training wasn't the history of all the deities, where they come from, what's the emblem, what they mean. No, there's no such thing. Okay, but within there's something similar to it when you are in the what they call the tantric colleges. There are several tantric colleges, and what they are focusing on is mainly rituals. This is the ritual that we receive. This is how you do it. Not necessarily into an explanation of them, but there are certain tantric colleges that go in depth into explaining some specific deities, what they mean, why, and all that kind of stuff. But it's not like you will find one person necessarily who knows every single Tibetan, every single deity within the pantheon. And also those terms that we are using, deity and pantheon, they are completely they don't really represent exactly what is meant within Tibetan Buddhism, and we have to go into that also. Okay. Right. As usual, we'll do a meditation, and then we'll go to the talk, and after the talk, you can I'll try to leave time. They'll probably be able to leave time this time because I don't really know much about this thing, so I won't be able to say much. And you can ask questions, and I'll be able to say I don't know, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay. All right. So let's get ready to meditate. Hold the intention. I'm going to meditate. Allow the immediate understanding of what meditation is to impact you. Allow the body's intelligence to understanding of meditation to come. Allow the intellectual understanding to come, but do not overwhelm. Allow the emotional, allow the energetic, all the different understanding, all the different responses to that term, to that intention. Let's meditate. Allow all of the dimensions of you to respond and listen to all of them. As you listen to the body's intelligence helping you, guiding you, or you want to meditate, okay, let's sit this way. So listen to that intelligence as it guides you how to hold your posture. Talking about the issues. Okay, here we go. So as the intelligence within the body tells you to position your legs this way, arrange your torso this way, arrange your arms and legs, hands this way, make sure your head and neck are in this way, mouth, teeth, tongue, eyes. Once you reach that sense of confidence in the posture, then gently come to your breath. As you breathe in, know you are breathing in. As you breathe out, simply know you are breathing out. Notice the signs already arising and welcome them, rejoice in their presence. The calm rising in the body, the calm in the mind, the calm in the breath. Notice also the pleasantness. And just staying this way with the breath, eventually notice there's a slight shift in the behavior of the breath. As you notice that, take that as an indication. Now you are fully ready in all your dimensions to fully enter, fully commit to this meditation session. And as a way of acknowledging this recognition to meditate, this readiness, take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe out through the mouth, let go. And let go, let go, let go in the body, let go in the breath, let go in the mind, let go, let go, let go. Keep letting go. As you're letting go, notice the calm enhancing, notice the pleasantness enhancing. And at the end of that exhalation, stay where you've reached, but allowing the breath to return to its own rhythm, but staying in that new calm, staying in that new pleasantness, staying in that new clarity, that new radiance. Welcome them, rejoice. And as you notice the signs, take a moment to stabilize them and deepen them by observing 3 conscious breaths. Deeply, gently breathe in. And as you breathe out, let yourself go deeper. Going deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness. Stay in that new depth. And as you stay in that new depth, again, through the nose, gently, fully breathe in. Staying, and then release. Let yourself go deeper, deeper into the clarity. Let the inner signs get stronger, sharper, clearer, brighter, and staying at that new level again. Get ready, staying there. Take a nice deep breath and release. And as you release, let yourself go, witnessing yourself going deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness. Rejoice, welcome it, and leave the breath alone. And notice, take a moment to notice the new depth of clarity, new depth of radiance through the strength and the vividness and the nowness, clarity of the inner sensations, the heart beating, the pulse in various places. Acknowledge them, rejoice. This is definitely because you are now abiding in a more subtle consciousness. Within this more subtle consciousness where the signs are stronger, gently bring your attention to the space in front of you where you feel centered. And while your attention is drawn to that space in front of you, begin to think about that within you that you feel is the full potential that you have. If you were to be right here, right now, living your full potential, physically, emotionally, energetically, relationshiply, in every kind of way that we can experience existence, and you were relating, you were existing in your with your utmost potential. Do you have a specific image of that? Allow that image to come in that space. See it brilliantly appearing. If it's not a specific shape, if it's not a specific color, but a sense of the presence, whatever it is for you, there's nothing right or wrong about it. Just have it in that space in front of you. The concept of it, the idea of it, the appearance of it. But as a concept or as an idea, not as purely abstract, but as a existing reality. You can think of it this way. There will be a time, we don't know when, could be tomorrow, could be the next moment, could be some different life, where we will have achieved our full potential, where we will have fully achieved fully manifest our enlightened nature. So that's the one. Feel its presence. And it is that one who is your real teacher, who is guiding you, who is protecting you. But you have the freedom to accept and also the freedom to reject. But now we are in the mind state of full acceptance, accepting the guidance, accepting the protection, a sense of readiness right here, right now, to be our most enlightened self. And with that sense of readiness, express genuine sense of reverence for this state of being. And as you experience this genuine state of reverence, veneration, relax. Let the very veneration take you deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the clarity, deeper into the radiance, deeper into focus. And express a deep trust. And as you express your sense of trust, fully allowing yourself to fully rely on its guidance, on its protection. As you do that, relax, go deeper into the calm, deeper even still into the pleasantness, deeper still into the clarity and radiance, deeper still into the sense of attention being collected. And now, knowing everything that has happened in your life where you felt grateful, but you didn't know exactly where the source of that came from. Well, intuitively, you knew it's coming from this enlightened potential. In whatever ways you can interpret this, make it real and express gratitude. And express gratitude also not just for the past, but also for the future, because be, you will achieve your full potential and be grateful to everything, everyone that makes it possible. And as you're expressing your gratitude, relax, go deeper still into the calm, into the pleasantness, into the clarity, radiance, and collected, more stable attention. If there is a particular form of a particular, what we now will call deity, that you feel connected to, whose prominent qualities you feel drawn to, attracted to. So see that deity and know that the reason that you are drawn to this deity is because it is a reflection of these very potentials that are being reflected, your own potentials being reflected, your own possibilities being reflected. Okay? Form the determination, I am ready to fully take responsibility of my full potential. And with that, feel the presence move from the space in front of you to your crown. If it's already at the crown, then it stays there. And while it's there, make plea to that aspect of you that you are desperately wishing to manifest, to embody, and beg it, please, whatever I'm holding on to that is preventing me from fully manifesting you, help me be free of them. I'm ready to let them go. Whatever it is that I'm supposed to have that I'm hesitating to get, help me, give me the courage, give me the strength, give me the ability to take them on. And as you are receiving these inspirations, these purifications, you go deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the clarity, deeper into the radiance, deeper into focus. Let your sense of readiness get stronger and stronger. And whenever you feel any hesitation, present it as an offering and allow it to disintegrate. and feeling ready, ready to embody, ready to now be the embodiment of those qualities. With that sense of readiness, the presence above your head becomes a spark of light. And think of the spark of light as almost taking all those immeasurable qualities and somehow squeezing them into the form of a spark of light. And as you relax, let that spark of light descend to the crown of your head. Feel the spark descending, illuminating, and eventually enters the very center of your heart. And as soon as it enters your heart, it bursts into light. And all the appearances, all the qualities that are not the quality that you wish to embody are obliterated by the light. And you are filled with only the qualities that you know you have the potential to embody. And if there is this particular form of a deity that it symbolizes, that embody those for you, see yourself now appearing as that deity in that form. See yourself now meeting your partner as that form, relating with your partner in that form, speaking from that form. See yourself relating with your neighbors, with your family in that form, speaking, thinking, acting. See yourself walking in the streets in that form, meeting friends, meeting strangers. And come back to your seat. And think of the body that you are now that is sitting as an aspect of that enlightened self. And it is an aspect that you take on for a specific reason. And let that go. Go back to now just the space of the meditation, knowing, feeling the calm, the pleasantness, rejoicing, feeling the clarity, the radiance, rejoicing. Noticing any signs of being abiding right now in a more subtle consciousness and rejoicing. And let that full potential be the one listening, guiding you through the sounds that you will hear. And with that, get ready to come out. Take a nice deep breath. And as you release the breath, let yourself reconnect with your immediate surroundings. Deliberately be aware of the temperature, the feel of your clothing, the seat. Be aware of the different sounds. Deliberately allow yourself to notice colors, shapes, lights, shadows. Okay. I'm not sure if I committed a faux pas. What you might call that? Well, anyway, the meditation that we went through is what is referred to as deity yoga. And you're not supposed to be taught that until you receive some sort of initiation. But there you are, just got it. You didn't get the initiation though, but you did the meditation. But the fortunate thing, by fortunate I mean what saved me from having committed some sort of a breach of commitment, not sharing things that I'm supposed to share, is that every form of Tibetan Buddhism is a form of deity yoga. Okay, no matter what you're doing, you're doing some form of deity yoga, even though it's not formally, it may not be formally called deity yoga. It's so infused in every aspect of Tibetan Buddhism that there's no way that you can completely remove it. Okay, for example, you're a tiny little guy or girl, and you're in your monastery or in a nunnery, and you just got there, you just learned how to read, and you come to an assembly where the bunch of other monks are there, a bunch of or nuns are there. Some are as the same age as you are, some are a bit younger, and some are much older, like in the 90s or hundreds. And they all gathered together in the same space doing one thing. Remember, you just got there. What is it that you're reciting? You're reciting a deity yoga practice. Okay. That is much more elaborate than what we just did. So that's why I feel safe to say, even though I called it deity yoga, if I never called it deity yoga, you probably would have never known, but that's what you would be doing. But just like that little guy who just got into the monastery and doing uh, the assembly for the first time, the first thing that the little guy is asked to recite is a deity yoga practice in a very elaborate way. Okay, so I am safe. That all that talk is just to make me to tell myself, okay, you're safe, you're safe. Okay, all right, into the topic. Uh, it's more of a general topic about deity within Buddhism. Um, to begin, you could say that term deity, um, uh, different cultures, you could say, have a different understanding of the term deity. For Buddhism, um, recognizes that there are powerful beings. So a deity, you could say, is any being who has power, who is able to exercise power over others, but to such a degree that the beings that they exercise in power over have to go to a complete shift in order to match their power, you could say. Okay? Like, it's not the kind of power you could say a parent has over a baby, over a child. So, uh, relatively speaking, as far as the child is concerned, as far as the baby is concerned, the mother is a god because the mother has power that is able to exercise over the child. The mother can pick up the baby and put the baby somewhere else, and the baby cannot do anything about it. The mother will feed the baby. The baby is not at that moment be able to feed itself. Okay, all those kind. So I'm telling you this so that we can have a more of a general understanding of deity, so that we can go further, rather than because it is unavoidable for us to bring in whatever social conditioning that we have with that word as soon as we hear it. Okay, so let's just imagine humanity before they even had the word, right? What was their experience that made them come up with the word in the first place? What was actually happening to them? Okay, so they were witnessing them things happening that they themselves did not initiate. So as far as they're concerned, whenever something is happening, they see someone or something doing it, right? The log is moved, they saw the bear move it. Or um, uh, someone comes in with dinner and then they are fed, right? So they always witness someone doing something that is causing some sort of event to take place. And they witness also that there are things that are happening and they don't see who's doing it. And whoever or whatever is doing it has the ability to make it happen where they and they can't stop it. Like thunder, for example, or rain, for example, right? As far as they are concerned, they're not able to make the rain rain. They're not able to make the thunder do whatever. They're not able to make those things happen, but they're happening anyway. And while they're happening, they can't make it. Okay, stop. I don't want it anymore. They can't seem to do that. So whatever it is, whoever it is that is making those things happen to someone else. So when whoever is able to make someone else have an experience and that person is not able to stop that from happening, that thing they refer to as a deity. And of course, over periods of time, then they came, oh, there's this deity, there's that deity. No, there is only one deity. No, there's 5 deities, no, 20,000 deities. No, there's a million. No, there's a, no, that's for later time for different, due to trying to understand this thing. Right? Okay, so now that we have sort of like a general understanding of a deity, basically it's a conscious being, supposedly a conscious being, or a being with intention of some sort is able to exercise power over another category of being. And Buddhism recognizes that there are such beings. Um, and the way they recognize, the way they acknowledge such beings, they acknowledge that yes, there are such beings, but they are not um, they're not really immortal the way some cultures ascribe that quality of immortality to them. The way Buddhism sort of like uh, understand their long life as that would make someone else ascribe immortality to them is because they have extremely long lives. They live for their lifespan is sometimes you could say the duration of a planet. For as long as the planet uh, remains, they are able to be alive, continue to have the same personality, so to speak, living within that same personality, living within that same personhood, so to speak. But just like planets eventually cease to exist, they stop being planets, the sun stop being planet, the solar systems stop being solar systems, galaxies stop being galaxies. So in the same way, these beings, no matter how long of a life they have, they can have a life span as long as a solar system, as long as a galaxy, but it's still finite when you in a scheme of the totality of existence. So these kinds of beings, for the lack of a better word, since they are able to exercise power over things, they are also called. Okay, we'll borrow that term. We won't have our own term. We call it deities. Also, we call them gods. Okay, they are called gods also. But the way they understood, like you, if you work hard, you also can be one of them. And actually, there is a denomination within Vedanta. It seems like I can't use the word Hinduism anymore because the word Hinduism seems to include everything coming out of India. Okay. So it's not so specific anymore. It's just it's the big happy family. Okay. Uh, uh, there is there is uh, what's it called? I read that book a long time ago. It's a Vedanta book, and it is describing exactly this understanding. So it's not only Buddhists who believe that these deities have only they're not forever that way. They weren't forever that way. They became that way, and then they will lose that status at some point. There is a story that I remember reading in that book. Vish, 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 Vish. Never mind. Vishika, Vishika. Okay, all right. There's a story. The book is a sage, who is relating a story, basically telling cosmological history. And there's a one point in there. There's a conversation between two of these deities, and in the conversation, the question comes: this deity right now, who is Shiva, where did that deity, where did that being come from? Who is now Shiva? And then the sage pointed to a colony of ants. He said, "Well, this being was now Shiva was once one of those ants." And then if he doesn't use his power wisely, he's going to go back to be one of those ants. Okay, so whether that Shiva was really an ant, but the main point of the story is that anyone can become one of those deities. Those deities are not fixed. They're not fixed as being like the one who's now Shiva is always been Shiva, will always be Shiva. Okay, so take that into consideration. Remember that the one who's now Shiva, it's like Shiva is you can even call it a position. You're powerful enough to be now the present Shiva. Okay. And in some other solar system, they probably have their own Shiva. Okay. And after this Shiva is gone, and someone else will be the Shiva here again. Okay. So that's this these two spiritual paths sort of have the same understanding of deities. So because of that, then what category do they put those who are enlightened? Because those who are enlightened are truly truly beings who have truly become truly immortal. And they are able to interfere in other people's lives, so exercise power over other kinds of beings. So they have attributes that the deities have, and because of that, they are also called deities. And now within Buddhism, you could say there are two classes of deities. Those that are referred to as worldly, and those who are called enlightened. Okay, the enlightened ones are the ones who are who have reached immortality, who will never lose their status. Okay, they have reached. Those who are enlightened will never one day no longer be enlightened. And this understanding, it you could say, is undermine some of the understanding that unfortunately, those group of people that I created, the New Age people, sometimes, uh, sometimes within certain New Age circles, you hear the possibility that somebody could be enlightened and they could lose their enlightenment. Uh, Perhaps the word enlightenment is being used in their own, they have their own understanding of enlightenment. That's how they can say someone can lose enlightenment. But as far as Buddhism is concerned, you can never lose enlightenment. Once you've gained it, it is yours for the rest of existence. Exactly what that looks like. What did the Buddha say? Don't ask that question. You do not have the kind of mind that can understand this. So don't ask. Okay. It's not that it is there's no mind whatsoever that can understand it. It's just that the mind you have right now cannot understand it. If I if the Buddha were to say something to try to explain it, our mind will completely misunderstand it. Yeah. Right. So there are two categories of deities: the worldly and the enlightened, and they can appear in the same way, in the same form. Some forms that we see of certain deities were once worldly deities whose forms were taken over by an enlightened being. So among the worldly deities, you have a vast, array of them. From those who exercise tiny little power, or those who exercise power over universes. Okay, all these are called worldly deities, and why are they worldly? Because they are in danger of one day, maybe at the end of the age of the Milky Way, for example, still there's a day that they will lose that status unless they evolve, unless they become enlightened themselves. All right. Now, when we get to the deities in terms of people relating to them, people having tankas of them, in the same way that way back then when we were starting to have humanity started to have an understanding of deities where it could have been that the very first understanding of deity was mono, monotheistic, and later on in in elaborating it, it became polytheistic. Maybe. This is this is the theory that some people have, and I'm in more in agreement with that. So whenever polytheism came into being, it was to explain, uh, well, my mother brought me that food, and my father brought me that food. So maybe the rain is caused by one deity, and then the river is another deity. Okay. So that's how different categories of different deities came into being. And the reason I'm telling you this is because it seems to be in our DNA, where even though you may be given a sophisticated presentation, not what I'm giving, of deities, where you are presented with the idea of deities, not so much other beings around you that you have the capacity to connect with, to relate with, but rather as potentials within you. Once you're given this sort of presentation, and we forget this presentation, and we go back to our primitive understanding of deities, and we ask these questions. I'm having this problem. Which Buddha should I call? Completely forgetting what is a Buddha? What is a fully enlightened being? A fully enlightened being becomes a fully enlightened being from this one main vow. I vow to reach enlightenment so that I can be of service to anyone, anywhere. No Buddha said, I will only help people who live in that part of the world. I will only help people who are sick with headaches. I will only help people who have this problem or that problem. That is, there are, and this comes from, this has a legitimate source, but the thing is to, the main thing is what one Buddha is capable of doing, all Buddhas have the same capacity, have the same capability. Okay. Uh, the only reason why one person works with Tara, for example, and another person works with Manjushri, for example, is because that particular form, they feel a closer connection to that form. And that's why that form seems to work better for them. And that's because of their connection to that form. It doesn't mean that Tara is more powerful than Manjushri or Manjushri is more powerful than Tara. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you were to switch for the one for whom Tara was working nicely, and you give that person Manjushri to work with, if that person doesn't have that same level of connection with Manjushri, even though Manjushri is as equal in terms of abilities with Tara, it may not work as well for that person, even though it worked perfectly well for that other person. It may not necessarily work perfectly well for that person. So it's not so much which deity does what, as in, look at the resumes of the Buddhas and say, okay, which Buddha takes care of this problem? I'll go to that Buddha, give me that phone number, and I will dial that Buddha. Okay. It doesn't work that way. Right. Now, with this understanding, um, now with the worldly deities, yes, right? Remember, worldly deities have a range of abilities. And there are those who actually specialize in specific things. There are those that specialize in medicine, for example. Then you will go to that if you need healing. But they're all, you could say, all the worldly deities have the capacity to heal, you could say. But some are more powerful. It's like you have different doctors who have different capacities in medicine, and some doctors are just better in treating one kind of ailment than another. So in the same way, the worldly deities have uh, the same range of skills also. Yes, when it comes to worldly deities, if if you're from a culture where you're introduced to one of them, because there are such things as family deities. In this family, they've been working with this deity for a very long time. So this deity has something of a strong connection with that bloodline, for example. Okay. Um, and there are deities which are specific to bloodlines, and there are deities which are more general and continues and continues. Like the United States, you could say, has its deity or deities, but it doesn't mean that these deities will not work for someone else from another country, but they are connected to the land. And um, one story that I remember about this is a Taoist, a master Taoist, who was trained and became a master in China prior to the revolution. And he became very proficient, you could say, at uh, establishing relationship with the various kinds of deities in the area, in this area. And when he moved after the revolution, he moved to San Francisco, and he found that those deities are not available. They didn't travel with him. Okay, so he had to reestablish a connection with the deities there, so to have the same effect that they used to have, that the ones that he knew of back in China. Okay, now from what I've been telling you, um, it is more from the perspective of the deity is like someone you encounter, someone you meet. and think of it that way as being valid. Just because we are only able to see what we call animals and insects and other human beings, we shouldn't have the arrogance of thinking that's the totality of beings that exist. And we shouldn't have the arrogance to think that just because we're not able to see them, if someone else claims that they see them, we shouldn't say that it's just your imagination. These things don't exist. Why don't they exist? Because I can't see them. Okay, the totality of what exists is not dependent only on what you are able to see. Okay, now it doesn't mean just because they are deities that they must be worshipped, that they must be venerated. Okay, the term worshiping and the term veneration, they are slightly different. Sometimes the way one sees a Buddhist from whatever country, whether it's Tibetan Buddhist or the Theravadan Buddhist, from what we observe them relating with the Buddhas as though it seems very similar to the way, for example, a Christian is relating with Christ or relating with what they call God or the way they understand deity to me. So it makes them ask the question, is the Buddha your God? When the Buddha achieved enlightenment, part of the story is as soon as he reached enlightenment, he was now traveling on his way to meet his friends to say, oh, look what I found. On the journey there, he encountered someone on the path who asked him, oh my goodness, you're bright, you're shining, you look incredible, you don't look like a normal human being. Are you a God? And the Buddha said, no, I am a human being. Okay. Uh, so from that very story, we should understand when Buddhists show veneration to enlightened beings, it is not the same kind of veneration that is given to a deity, like within Christianity, for example. When in the perfection of wisdom, uh, uh, within Buddhism, the term worthy of veneration is used a lot. Who is worthy of veneration? Who is worthy, and sometimes unfortunately translated as who is worthy of worship? But we have to understand the veneration and worship are completely different things within Buddhism. Okay, so in Buddhism, when they say who is worthy of veneration, the question is really asking, uh, should we be should we rely on someone who exhibits certain qualities, and what are those qualities that makes that person a reliable person for us? We can rely on them for our spiritual journey, for our spiritual path. Okay. And the Buddha lists, of course, what wisdom, compassion, ethical, those kinds of things, non-harming, all those kinds. So someone who embodies those things is someone who is worthy of veneration, someone who is worthy of being placed above you. That is, those are the qualities that I do not possess that I aspire to possess. That's what veneration means in Buddhism. I see qualities in you that I do not yet possess and that I aspire to possess myself, that I aspire to embody. And I'm relating with you from that perspective, from that sense of respect, deep respect. So that's how Buddhism is understood veneration to be. So take that understanding. And now, in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, the Buddha is asked, well, since the Buddhas are considered to be, okay, that's the peak of, you might call, evolution, spiritual evolution. Who do the Buddhas venerate? The question is asked. Do Buddhas venerate other Buddhas? Or do the Buddhas not venerate at all? So that question and that answer sort of deal with the misunderstanding that we have, that some people have when they see a Buddhist seemingly doing the same thing that they do towards God. Okay? The Buddha answered, the Buddhas venerate truth. They venerate the perfection of wisdom. That's what they venerate. Okay. So, just as a way of helping people stop fighting with each other, fighting about things that neither one of them understands. Okay. So the way one relates, the way a Christian or a monotheist relate to what they call the only object worthy of worship is, in Buddhism, that object, that thing, is what in Buddhism is referred to as the mother, but only in the mother in the sense that things that exist because of it. The true nature of reality, the perfection of wisdom. Okay, so now the perfection of wisdom itself, for the sake of being able to relate with it, it is given a particular form in Buddhism. It is called Prajnaparamita, the deity Prajnaparamita, the goddess Prajnaparamita. Remember, the form is not understood that this image that we see, this human-like figure having these different kinds of emblems, someone somehow saw perfection of wisdom and the perfection of wisdom appeared that way. Okay. And then that person said, oh, I saw perfection of wisdom, I took a picture, and then that's what perfection of wisdom look like. Okay. That's not what it means. It is simply your tiny little mind is incapable of fully understanding, fully capturing, encapsulating the perfection of wisdom as it is. But in order for you to have a sense of making a connection with it, we give you this picture. But don't be fooled to think that this picture is itself the perfection of wisdom. But when you're looking at it, you're able to make a relationship with what is really incapable for you to make a relationship with, for you to have a comprehension of with your kind of mind. But this will, having this image will remind you, there is this reality that is beyond my concept. This image is reminding me of that. Okay, so that's take that as an example. So in the same way, the goddess perfection of wisdom has an appearance. There are tankas of her, and then depending on the aspect of the perfection of wisdom, you might even see this goddess appearing in a different color. It's usually presented as white, but it may appear as red, may appear as blue, depending on the aspect of the perfection of wisdom that color is supposed to signify, that you're relating with. Okay, so take that as an example. Now we go into something that is somewhat in between those two. So you could say the image of the perfection of wisdom was created. It's not that it appeared. It's not that it already existed and then we came in contact with it, but rather it was created. It was created as a skillful means to help people remind themselves, don't fool yourself, you don't fully understand things. Okay. And the true nature of reality is beyond the kind of mind that you have cultivated. Yeah. So take that, and now we have deities which are, you could say, more of a personality than an abstract idea. And there are many of them. And I mentioned one of them, Tara is one of them. You have Tara, you have Avalokiteshvara, you have Vajrapani, you have Manjushri. these deities, these enlightened beings, the particular form that they are, that we have of them, there's a history to those forms. Tara, for example, was there are several what you might call mythological several mythological stories as to the origin. There are several origin stories of Tara. One origin story is the one that is most famous, is that Tara was once a princess whose family were very devotional, very, um, you could say, very religious, very supportive of spirituality. Um, and somehow there was some sort of a exchange, maybe um, um, uh, there was some sort of exchange where somehow she was told that in order for you to be enlightened, you have to be in a man's body. Okay, and because of her understanding of enlightenment, because of her understanding of the nature of reality, she knew that it was bogus. And I have to say that I met people who actually who still believe this, who believe that enlightenment can only be reached in a man's body. Even though they claim to be espousing Buddhist idea, believe me, this does not exist in any Buddhist text whatsoever. We don't know how it came up, but somehow it came up and people believed it. The Buddha himself said, "Okay, it's time for me to leave now." And people say, "Why is it time for you to leave?" He said, "I have accomplished it. I have men who are arhats. I have women who are arhats. I have men who became monks. I have women who became nuns. And since I have these kinds of people, my job is fulfilled." The Buddha didn't say, I have men who are enlightened, I have men who are on the path, okay, my job is done. It's almost as if I know you are going to be doing this stuff later because you give me such a big headache when I introduce women into the order. So I know you're going to make this into some kind of thing in the future. I'm going to tell you, my job is done because I have made men who followed me became enlightened, women who followed me became enlightened. Okay, and my job is now done. So I guess she didn't forget that part. She said, "I will show you, I will reach enlightenment in a woman's body." Let me give you a little secret. She's wrong and they're wrong. You do not achieve enlightenment in a physical body. The actual achievement of enlightenment occurs in a subtle body that is beyond gender. Okay? But you can have access to that body in a woman's body. You can have access to that body in a man's body. It is not the man's body itself within which you achieve the enlightenment. You have to leave it behind a little bit for a few moments and then achieve enlightenment and come back. Okay? The physical body has its, so you could say, has its karma to finish, even after you reach enlightenment. Okay? That's what they call achieving enlightenment with remainder. All right. So Tara, you could say, has a history that it was an actual person who vowed to appear in a particular way, especially to undermine what's that social idea that put men over, what they call that? Patriarchy. Yeah. So she deliberately achieved enlightenment and made her enlightened form take on the appearance of a woman, specifically to combat patriarchy. Okay, to combat the idea that only one gender can achieve spiritual attainment, can achieve enlightenment. Okay, to do away with that. And actually, there's a much better story. There's a goddess in the Vimalakirti Nirdesha Sutra. There's a story of a goddess who appeared to was it Subhuti? It wasn't Subhuti. It's Ananda. No, it wasn't Ananda. One of the main disciples of the Buddha who who saw the goddess and said, "Oh my goodness, you are very smart for a woman." And the goddess said, "Oh yeah," and the goddess said like that, and then transformed him into a woman. And he said, "Are you less? Are you better now or less now?" And he said, "This woman did something to you. Now, can you undo it?" And he wasn't able to undo it. I love that story. And no, anytime somebody brings the idea of, but you cannot reach enlightenment in a man's body or in a woman's body, tell him those things. Okay. All right. So Tara has an actual history where she was an actual person who appeared in the form that we know her of, we know about her. But she doesn't appear only in that form. Like whenever you call her, she may appear as your mother. She may appear as your brother, even. She may appear as your pet. But there is some quality about that appearance that does what Tara, that will do what Tara has promised to do. Okay. Yes, uh, deities also represent another being, but we have to remember that what they are showing us is really potentials that we have within us. Okay, so so you could say a deity is both a representation of the potentials that we have, but also they are another being that we can uh, talk to. Just like you have a friend who has the ability to do certain things, and you call that friend to do that thing for you. Yes, you can do it too if you do this went to the same training that they did for the however amount of years that they've done their training, and you can do that too. But if you want to do that thing now, and your friend already has that ability, you will call on that friend. And when your friend is doing that, you can also say, I have the potential to be able to do that also, but it is your friend who's doing it. So, in the same way, yes, you can call upon another who has reached a certain level that you wish to achieve to help you achieve that. Yes, they are reflecting potentials that you have, but at the same time, you must have the respect of respecting another. That's another being that we have to respect. Okay. Uh, so that is the same thing with Tara. That is the same thing with Manjushri. Manjushri was once some guy who made the decision to become Manjushri, to become what we know as Manjushri. And one of the vows of Manjushri was whenever someone is whenever someone has just become enlightened and is starting to gather disciples, I will appear as one of his disciples to help his disciples understand wisdom. Okay. So because of that, there's this tendency, remember I was talking about that before, there's this tendency because of that primitive understanding, oh yeah, there's a God for the river, there's a God for the ocean, there's a God for this and that. So with that primitive understanding, we hear the vow of Manjushri, we think, oh, I just need somebody to help me with the chair. Manjushri only deals with wisdom. I can't call Manjushri. Uh, when you have, if you feel you have a specific connection with any of these others, any deity, any enlightened being. You don't need to, I'm sorry, Tara, I know we've been together for a long time, but you're not an expert in what I want. I got to go to somebody else. You don't need to do that. Okay? Tara will help you. If you have a connection with Tara, Tara will help you with everything you need help with. This is what my teacher told me. Because I was confused also with everyone telling me, oh, when you need this, you need to go to this enlightened being. When you need that, you need to go to that enlightened being. And I was confused with that, and I was confused with that because you could say mainly because of my, I have to say, my Christian upbringing sort of leaked in. I should only. So I'm no longer worshiping one God. I should devote myself to just one Buddha. Okay, that kind of thing. Uh, but my teacher told me whatever you have established a relationship with your yidam. A yidam is the form of enlightenment that you feel that you have the deepest bond or connection with. Okay, and your bond with them with that deity, with that enlightened being, is so strong that when that they have the form that you will enter to become enlightened. It's like it is exactly like this. Imagine the form of the deity as a uniform, just like with uniform of a policeman. Okay, all right. You can pretend to be a police. With the uniform of a doctor, you can pretend to be a doctor. Okay, maybe this is not a good example. But imagine that the uniform actually gave you the knowledge and ability. You put on the uniform of the policeman, and you actually are able to exercise the abilities of a policeman. You actually are able to exercise the ability of a doctor just putting on the uniform. So a yidam is like a uniform. In your meditation, you will be able to put on that uniform. That is called deity yoga. Okay. You, you, you become accustomed to wearing that uniform. And because there's a particular power in that uniform that actually gives you the wisdom and the ability of that uniform. And by doing this over and over and over again, once in a while, your ability, the ability given to you by that uniform will leak out. Somehow you're able to help your friend. You have no idea how you're able to help your friend, but you're able to help your friend. Somehow you know the answer to the question that is troubling people, but you have no idea where the answer came from. You didn't study it. It's because the abilities of the uniform is leaking through you. Okay? This kind of relationship that you have with the deity, that deity is called a yidam. Okay? And you're not supposed to go around to tell people, oh, by the way, my yidam is so and so. Okay? You're supposed to keep that to yourself. Only you and your teacher, the one who made the introduction, are supposed to know that. Okay? Part of the power is keeping it sacredly secret. Okay? And you may feel yourself that you have a relationship like that with a particular form. So that particular form is both a potential that you have and also another being who possesses that potential, who is able to help you achieve that potential. So we must consider it to be one and the same. We should not have any problem being able to say, yeah, that deity is someone else, but also my potential. Okay. What's that? You shouldn't have any, shouldn't allow that understanding to create confusion within you. So you have worldly deities who can help you, but you cannot completely rely on them for spiritual work. If because of your blood lineage, your family used to, or some past life, you have a connection with a particular powerful being who can help you with something, yes, it's okay to rely on them to help you. It's just like I said, just like a friend has the ability to do something, and then you rely on your friend to help you with it. But you're not worshiping your friend, okay? You don't have to worship the worldly beings, but you can ask them for help. It's just another being. Okay, we do that a lot with animals, even though we don't ask them for the help that we get from them, but we force them to give us the help anyway. Okay, but we don't worship them because they help us. Okay, just because we ask a worldly powerful being to help us with something, we don't necessarily have to give them worship, okay? But we have to respect them. As a matter of fact, one of the vows that one takes as a bodhisattva, someone who's committed their existence to compassion and love, one of the vows is to do not belittle other beings, especially, oh, I'm a bodhisattva, I'm above those worldly gods. You're not supposed to belittle them. Okay. Okay. So worldly beings enlighten worldly powerful beings and enlightened powerful beings. We have that already. Within those two, there's another class in terms of they have a specific duty that they have vowed to do, to uphold, and that duty is the duty of protection. And these are what I refer to as the dharma protectors, the dharmapalas. And these are usually depicted as very fierce looking beings, and they look scary because that's their job, to be scary. Okay, and they are scaring two things. They are scaring our ego, and they're also scaring ignorance, which is basically one and the same thing. One and the same thing. And also, they represent the dark aspect of ourselves that we have to face. You cannot reach enlightenment without going through the door, without meeting your dark aspects. Okay, enlightenment is impossible to achieve without doing that. Okay, we have to encounter them, and we have to relate with them, we have to accept them, and we have to transform them. There's no running away from the dark aspect. Okay, so the deities that are referred to as the Dharma protectors represent those things. And in the same way that Tara was once somebody who became Tara, some of these are also a specific being, especially within Tibet, where a powerful spiritual being rescues a powerful worldly being. They were in some sort of trouble, or they were trying to create trouble. And because of that relationship, they were forced to take an oath. And the oath goes like this. It's going to sound cruel, but let your wisdom listen, okay? Listen with your wisdom, okay? Don't listen with your ego. The oath is this: I will protect the Dharma. I will protect those who are engaged in the Dharma. And if I don't, may my head be split into 1,000 pieces. Okay. So they take their oath very seriously. Okay. Imagine I would say that, make that oath. I will avoid gluten no matter what. And if I dare touch a piece of gluten, may I, then I would take not eating gluten very seriously.
So would it
Would it happen? It depends on the sincerity of your oath. And I would say some of you bodhisattvas probably find yourselves when you engage in certain activities, when you allow certain emotions to take over, you get sick. I know, don't deny it. Don't deny it. Yep. It's because of a vow you may have taken. You may have taken a vow, to have taken an oath. If I ever allow my mind to entertain such and such a thing, may I get sick? May I get a headache? May I pass out? Okay. So you may find yourself experiencing these kinds of things. So basically, you're allergic to certain kind of non-virtues. That's how powerful of a bodhisattva you are. You've made yourself allergic to certain non-virtuous thoughts, certain virtuous activities that actually makes you sick. Okay. If you think a certain way about someone, you get sick. Okay. All right. So the class of deities who've taken oath, the worldly one, who've taken oath to protect practitioners, to protect you, to protect people who are sincerely on the path, and to protect the integrity of the dharma, to protect the integrity of the spiritual path. These are called dharma protectors. Some of them are worldly, and some of them are also enlightened. That is, just like imagine Tara may have also decided to, okay, I will protect the dharma in this place. And I take this form to protect the dharma. So there's you could say a wrathful form of Tara that is whose specific duty, not specific duty in terms of only duty, but special duty is to protect the dharma, protect practitioners. But since that form is connected to an enlightened being, it is not only able to just do that. It is able to guide you the same way any other enlightened being can guide you. And that form can also be your yidam. Somehow you feel very you feel like a warrior, and then you see the form of that very wrathful form of Yamantaka, for example. Yamantaka means trampler on death, trampler, the one who tramples on death. That is a form that Manjushri took to protect the Dharma. But that form, if you feel an affinity towards that form, actually, I've heard people, some people, when they see the terrifying form of Yamantaka and they get scared, and there are some people who find it very cute, who find it very handsome and very attracted to that very terrifying form. It's because they have a connection with it. And they may take that form to be a yidam, that uniform that they will keep on trying until one day they will be able to achieve enlightenment with that form, and they will become a Yamantaka. Just like, remember that story I told you? Oh, that Shiva was this. So John is now the Shiva, the one who's Shiva now was John. So this is John Shiva, or Shiva John. What would you say? Shiva John? John Shiva? Shiva John. Okay, yeah. So that's why you have Buddha, Yamantaka so and so, Yamantaka so and so, because someone took on that uniform, but it has a particular personality connected to the one who took that form. Yeah, and you're not stuck. It's not like you reach enlightenment in the form of Yamantaka and you're stuck with that form forever. Okay, you can have whatever form you want. Okay, after that, but you use it as a means to get to that enlightenment because of a strong connection. You feel that particular. Do you have favorite mirrors? I have favorite mirrors. There are some mirrors I can't stand because they show me as the way I don't want to look. And there are some mirrors that, oh my goodness, I like this mirror. So think of the different deity form as different mirrors. Some of them make your appearance, oh, look at that, I want that mirror instead. Okay, I like those qualities This quality attracts me to enlightenment more than that quality attracts me to enlightenment. But once you reach enlightenment, you have all of them. Okay. Uh, uh, there's a famous kind of story, that is told about when the Tibetans were first established in Buddhism. They were that primitive notion was very much with them, that they felt that, oh, I need that Buddha to help me with this, I need that Buddha to help me with this. So they had a collection of Buddhas. They were doing a lot of practices, and a master came and said, "You Tibetans, you practice 1,000 deities and achieve none. But if you just practice one deity, you will achieve all of them." Okay, so don't worry about if you feel a connection to a yidam, to a deity that is enlightened. You don't need others to help you do this or that. And this is something that a lot of practitioners, uh, I find them, they do that. They have a particular practice that they have, a yidam, you could say, and maybe it's a forced yidam. They heard so and so is giving this practice, and they say, "Well, let me do it." I don't know who that person is, that deity that they introduced me to, but why not? But they feel more connected later on. They feel more connected to another form, so they feel at a loss. Which one should I go to? Which one should I go to? Let me give you this little advice that my teacher gave me. So when I went to my teacher, I didn't finish that story, did I? When I went to my teacher and about this confusion that people telling me you need this and that deity for this and that, and he told me, ask your didam whatever you want. Whatever you want, go to that one yidam. And also, if for some reason you feel more connected to another form, but you have a commitment to this particular form, you can tell yourself, wait a minute, Buddhas can appear in any form. So this Buddha is going to take that form for me. Okay. Appearing as Yamantaka because I find Yamantaka very attractive and that's the one I want to be. But I have this, peaceful looking deity which isn't not so attractive. So you can say this form of Yamantaka is really Tara. Tara is taking this form to help me because Tara sees that I have this infatuation with Yamantaka. And you tell us, even though it's looking like Yamantaka or whatever, you tell yourself it's Tara. That is, if you're one of those who find yourself at a conundrum, you seem to have two deities, two yidams, and you can't make up your mind. Okay, now forget what I just said. Here's the real thing. Whether it's appearing as Tara, whether it's appearing as Manjushri, whether it's appearing as Mahakala, it's all your potential. Tell yourself, this is my potential appearing as Yamantaka. This is my potential appearing as Tara. Okay. And be able to hold that with a sense of this is true. At the same time, while you're able to hold it in your mind, there's a Tara out there. Okay. It's like all the policemen wear the same uniform, but they are different people. But they wear the same uniform, exercising this. What am I saying policemen for?
I don't know. I was like, are these different people? I think that was like interesting. I was like, maybe that's another topic.
That's not a topic.
I was like, it seems pretty similar to me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that is more of a general understanding of this topic of deity within Buddhism, worldly, enlightened, and understanding of deity as mainly as a powerful being, not in the same way that it is, because we've had over 3,000 years of sort of what's that word? Formulating, especially in the West, but all over the world, formulating the idea of deity that is very specific, right? But
indoctrination.
Yeah, indoctrination. I didn't want to be so rough saying indoctrination, but not necessarily indoctrination, but no, think of a milder way of indoctrination, where the concept of deity is very much connected to that. So just understand deity from the very primitive way of understanding deity, and then bring it here so that you don't have, because there are people who are monotheistic, who are attracted to ideas of Buddhism, where they find themselves in conflict. They find themselves almost like abandoning something for something else. And that was also my story, because when I entered the spiritual path consciously, I was a Christian, and I was very much trying to understand the God deity. And one of the problems I had with Buddhism is that, oh, everything about Buddhism is wonderful, but they don't have a deity. Until I sort of go into what are we really talking about when the way we're understanding deity here now over the 3,000 years of indoctrination, and what in Buddhism is close to that. And that's why I gave the story about the Buddha, when the Buddha was asked, who do Buddhas worship? And the Buddha says, perfection of wisdom. So if you're a Buddhist and someone asks you, do you have a God? Do you have God? You can say, well, it depends on what you mean. This can be understood to be God, if you understand God to be this way. But if your understanding of God is completely something very personal, something very cultural, then we don't have that. Okay. All right. Sorry, I did say I was going to leave a little time for you to ask questions, but I broke my promise. It's a good thing I didn't make it a vow.